Hey everyone, it's Natalie. I don't really know what today's video is going to be on. I guess we can do one on hope and healing. And what I can tell you that if you are in this situation with your narcissistic mother-in-law, and you are either in the situation or you have went no contact, trust me when I say things will get better if you take a stance or a stand and you protect your boundaries, you protect your children, you protect yourself, and you even have to protect your husband. Because remember, our husbands have normalized this type of behavior from their narcissistic parent forever. It's all they know. But what I can tell you is that when that straw finally broke with me and the relationship I have with my narc, to be honest, I wasn't even scared at first. I was just angry. I was so angry that this person had the nerve to say the things she said to my husband, and the nerve to use my child as a weapon and threaten my child and all this stuff. Oh, I'm going to take the kid and throw Natalie out of the house, take her car, and blah, 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 everything. Take my whole livelihood. Once my husband told me everything she had said, and once I also read some of the texts that she was telling my husband to run and hide from me, I was not scared. I was pissed. And so at first you feel really angry, and then you go no contact finally. And after the no contact kind of settles in, I'm not gonna lie, it kind of can get scary, because you're like, oh great, what is this person gonna do now that I cut them out of our life? And you get nervous. You're like, well, can life be normal without the narcissist in it? How is my husband gonna feel about no contact? So you kind of have these, the train of thought of what it's going to be like without the narcissist, and is it just easier to let the narcissist stay in your life? But the truth is, it is harder on you and your relationships if you let the narcissist stay in your life. So even though at first it can seem difficult from shifting from that relationship with the narcissist to shifting to no contact and focusing on yourself, your healing, and your family, you have, there's some kind of comfort and relief that's kind of seeping through you, even though you have that fear. So you kind of like, well, I finally got rid of this person. And there's this thing that goes over you, blanket. It's like a blanket that's hugging you and saying it's gonna be okay. You're gonna make it just fine without the narcissist. And guess what? No more abuse. And as fearful as I was, I think I was more devastated for my husband than I was for me, because it's not my mother. My mother would never treat us like this. And so when I talked to my husband about this is it, I'm sorry, look at these text messages. And during that time that she was doing all this, my husband had me call his mom, and I'm crying and everything about what happened between me and my husband. We had gotten our very first fight, big fight, after at that time, I think it was 17 years together. And so I get on the phone with her, and I'm crying, I'm upset. We're looking for guidance in our marriage. I'm very vulnerable. I'm putting my trust in this narcissist. My husband was putting trust in, trying to get any type of counseling from her. As a person who's been married, I think at that time, 40 years. Well, while I'm crying on the phone, she in a calm, collected manner and voice, she said, Natalie, it's okay. hand the phone to Jared. So I hand the phone to my husband, and the very first words out of her mouth was, run and hide, you and your child, because Natalie's on drugs. She literally said that was the very first words out of her mouth, trying to manipulate my husband even more than what she already had when he went to her looking for guidance. Because that is also the time that all of a sudden she magically had a divorce lawyer's number in her phone. Magically, right? Someone who doesn't believe in divorce because she's Catholic, but she believes in ours. So anyway, that's kind of off the subject, but after she did that, that was my last straw. Because here I am doing what my husband asked, and that was to call his mom and talk to her about what had happened between he and I. And she goes and tells him that Natalie's on drugs. Instead of taking that opportunity to counsel us, to guide us, and to kind of understand what our fight was over. And she could have stayed neutral like my mom did, because we talked to my mom too. Stayed neutral and just listened to both sides. Instead, what she did is she rode the Jared train, and she literally was doing everything she could to manipulate him even more, to make him believe I was on drugs and he needed to run and hide with our child, because I was crying, because I was in a state of vulnerability, needing somebody to be there for me and my husband. And she took advantage of that. And so when that happened, I looked at my husband and I go, that's the last straw. And then I looked down. He had a piece of paper and a pen, and I looked, and the paper said, it was a list of things to do. Number 1, contact the divorce lawyer. Number 2, take Natalie's job that I literally just got hired onto with my husband, because my husband's my boss. And I had just called her a few weeks prior, all excited and happy about it, so she knew about the job. Then she said, kick Natalie out of the home, put your take the child, take her car, and limit her banking and secure your savings, and take her bank cards. That is what was on that list. And so after she had said the drug thing, and then I saw the list, I'm like, I was like, Jared, I did exactly what you asked me to do, and this is the response. And this is why we have so many problems in our marriage. This is why our marriage wasn't strong back then, because you allow this person to be in our life, putting the divorce, the D word, in our marriage when it was never there. And he just kind of looked at me and he goes, I know, Natalie, she really just said that you were on drugs. I know, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, well, what's this list? He's like, I wasn't planning on doing any of this. My mom had me write it down. I guess they were on video call, so she like physically was watching him, I think. He's like, I don't plan on doing any of this. He goes, look, I made a huge mistake by going to my mom and asking for guidance. I shouldn't have done that. And I said, but stop for a minute, Jared. I said, think about it. You did exactly what she's been grooming you to do. And that is run to her if any problems arise in our relationship. And this is the first time that anything like major happened in our relationship. And I said, do you see the manipulation in that? Do you see all this time of her whispering things in your ear when I wasn't around, telling you I was mentally ill, telling you that she's worried about your safety, telling you that I'm not a good mom, just like putting the divorce word into our marriage any possible time that she could, even when things weren't even like my fault, just finding traumas and vulnerabilities within me and using it as an excuse to run with for divorce. And he's like, I really see everything now, and I'm sorry that I even went to them. for help. He goes, but I just thought because my parents have been married so long, they could help me. He's like, I don't want a divorce. And so we went home and everything. But the point of this story is, when you get to the point that your mother-in-law is doing things like that and you go no contact, it's a relief that these people are out of your life, because you know now your relationship is safe. These people that are in your life are not safe people. These are not people that want to see your relationship blossom or be strong. These are people that come in the cracks like little cockroaches that they are. Yeah, cockroaches. And try to invade your life with the infestation of their narcissistic abuse. They're disgusting little boogers, aren't they? And when they get in and they infest your life, what they do is they slowly start overtaking different aspects of your relationship. And if you are at that point that they have done this, your relationship is not safe. It is no longer your relationship. It is the narc and your husband's relationship. And when you finally see that that is what's going on, kicking these people out of your life is the biggest relief, the biggest reward that you can give your marriage, your family, the nuclear family that you created. Because the goal of the narcissist is to look at your relationship. They're looking for their identity again, because they lost that identity of their child to you. And so now their mask has been off. They've had a narcissistic injury. And so this is why they come in and immediately go after you, because how dare you steal their identity? Because a narcissist, we all know, cannot look at their true self. If they looked at their true self, they'd probably kill themselves. They know that they are nasty people. They have a lot of psychological and emotional baggage. And they are not like us empaths or us good people. We reflect on the mistakes we've made. We reflect on things that have hurt others, and we apologize and we make corrections in our life to never hurt another person again like that. But the narcissist does not know how to reflect on the crap that they've done to people, because if they did, then they would realize that they are a horrible, horrible human being. And they don't want to do that, because it will damage their pride. It will damage their ego, even though if you really get to know a narcissist, what they really are is a scared, hurt little child inside. This is why I say that they do not have an emotional state bigger than a 5 or 6 year old, because that is how they are inside. So when these people you finally going to contact, all this explaining that I'm doing is to make you realize that they are a threat to your family. These are not people that you want in your life. So when you go no contact, you do get a security blanket of your own saying, finally, I'm warm. Finally, I'm standing my ground and I'm doing what's right. And I know what's happened to me is wrong. And I am no longer going to tolerate this type of abuse. And after you start feeling this, then you have anger, because what happens is you reflect on all of the horrible things that have she or he has done to you. And you think to yourself, like, why did I let that slide? Why didn't I speak up? Why did I, it's a rambling in your head, just like, why? And then what happens is you go out looking for answers, which brings you to my channel, brings you to Google, brings you to all these books and therapists and all this stuff on YouTube and on the internet. And then once you discover the definition of NPD, you have a light bulb go off in your head, and it says, now you're wide awake. Now the light has been shown to you, and you need to do your research on it, because you no longer feel like you're going crazy, because since you didn't know about the NPD, like the definition and everything that goes with it, you kind of felt like maybe you were the problem, or other people couldn't see it, that whatever, it could have been a million things, and you just kind of feel isolated and alone, like something's wrong with these people, but you couldn't put a name to it. And then finally, when you get a name, you go berserk. You're like, oh my God, this is it. Hell yeah. I know my intuition was right. I knew what that little voice inside of me was saying, that something's not right with this person. You find out all this educational information about narcissism, narcissistic abuse, NPD, all this, right? So you're super excited about this, and you can't stop researching it, because since you have been looking for answers for so long at what was going on in your situation, it's like you are very thirsty, and then they finally lead you to the well. You cannot stop drinking the water from the well. However, sometimes drinking too much water from the well can make you ill. And what I mean about that is, because you finally get the information that you are so desperately looking for, obsessing over the information can actually bring up a lot of old traumas that the narcissist has done to you. And it has you really thinking, which then in return you find out that you have CPTSD. And the more you research, the more the CPTSD becomes vibrant inside of your mind. I like to call it the hamster wheel with the little hamster. But I like to say there's two hamsters, right? There's a hamster of reality, and there's a hamster of fantasy. And I like to say that when you start guilt tripping yourself about going no contact, the fantasy hamster is feeding the reality hamster the fantasy of what you pictured, what you imagined your narcissist to be. And then the reality hamster starts feeding the fantasy hamster what really happened. And so if you listen to your reality hamster and not the fantasy hamster, you will stay strong in this no contact. The biggest problem with going no contact is staying no contact, because you guilt trip yourself. Why do you do that? Because you are a good person with empathy and sympathy. That's why you do it. Why else do you do it? Because you were looking for acceptance that you never got. And you think by going no contact and then eventually letting the narcissist back in your life, that the narcissist finally understands how you feel. But the truth is, you've caused a narcissistic injury, and they don't give a damn how you feel. And what will happen if you allow these people back in your life is, because you caused that injury to them, they will come back with a vendetta. They will be vicious in their attacks. Now, at first they won't. At first, they're going to act like this sweet little old innocent woman who is only here to help. They might spoil you with gifts, you know, the positive hoover. I need to do a video on the positive and negative hoover, but they might come with a positive hoover. They are maybe wanting to buy you stuff, maybe spoiling your children. They're wanting to hang out and take you guys out to eat all the time. Maybe there's vacations. Maybe they want to help put a down payment on your home. Whatever it is, it could really literally be a million things to persuade you that you can be vulnerable with them again. And this is what they do, is because they see you have a brick wall between you and the narcissist now, is they try to destroy that brick wall. And when they eventually get the wall down where they're looking at you face to face, they then start the manipulation and passive aggressive tactics again. But this time, if you think you escaped last time from a hellhole, this time it's going to be double that. Because since you went no contact, they were not able to get any supply, meaning that they are low on supply. And it's like any drug addict who is low on their supply. If they don't get high in a while, what happens? They go nuts and they will manipulate you to get things out of you so they can get high again. And with a narcissist, because they haven't got high off of the supply in a while, they will kind of start dabbling in it just a little bit, because a little bit of supply, since they have not had it in a while, gets them high. But what happens is once they reach the level they were at before you went no contact, that high no longer gets them high. So then they have to double down each time when they are abusing you or manipulating you or saying passive aggressive things to get that same supply that they once got before you went no contact. And even if you do not go no contact, the same will happen. So it really doesn't matter. I mean, the narcissist works like this. They see what they've gotten away with, and then what they do is they double down to see if they can get away with this. And when your husband or you allows them to get away with this, then they move up to the next stage, and it just keeps on going. But the thing is, when you and along the way, you might be causing narcissistic injuries, unfortunately, if you stand your ground and your boundaries. But when you go no contact with the narcissist, they are, because they're like a wounded animal, they're just going to come back in and take advantage of your vulnerabilities basically right away. Now, they will be nice at first and then start off doing little things and then work their way back up to their normal supply and then double down to get an even better hit off of that supply. But where I'm going with this is that when you go no contact, you need to be ready to die on the hill you are protecting. And that what's on that hill is your family and marriage. So even though you might be fearful of what the narcissist is going to do, if you stand on that hill and you're willing to die on that hill, the narcissist is paralyzed. Now, if your husband does not have your back and has the narcissist's back, that's a huge problem. Because not only now do you have a mother-in-law or father-in-law problem, you now have a spouse problem. Because your spouse, no matter what it is, unless you physically assaulted the narc, the spouse should always have your back. Nobody, I don't care if it's the narcissist or not, I'm dealing with this right now with one of my clients being physically assaulted by the narcissist. I don't care if it's you or if the narcissist is physically assaulting. You never put your hands on anybody. You do not have the right to do so. And if the narc physically assaults you, I want you to literally call the cops on them. Matter of fact, I have 2 clients, not just one, but 2 clients that are going through this right now. And you guys know who you are. If you watch this video, you know. You need to call the cops, have them arrested, and press charges. Because the truth is, if you physically assaulted the narcissist, she's going to do the same thing anyways. And you really shouldn't be getting that angry, that worked up with the narcissist that you have to attack like that. Because all it does is make you look like the bad person. Because could you only imagine some of your reactions and the smearing that goes on with that? If you physically assault the narcissist, oh, nobody will ever look at you the same. That's the truth. And if you're in that situation that the narcissist is making you that angry, you do need to go no contact right away, ASAP. But back to, this is the problem with narcissism, is I can talk about one thing and go down that road for 5-10 miles and I forget what I'm talking about, and then I go back to that other road. So excuse me. But and then so when you're no contact, After a while, because you had fear, then you had anger. Well, after that, you get a strength. The strength is that you realize that you have to protect yourself and your family from this person. And what's sad is sometimes our spouses cannot see that we are protecting them, which causes a whole other problem. But if you go no contact and your husband decides not to, that does not mean that you literally have to be in a relationship with the narcissist. You exclude yourself from that relationship and you live the life that you want to live without any burden by your husband or the narcissist. And that also means if you go no contact and your husband decides not to, your children also are going no contact along with you. But this brings me to my point that you get this type of almost like, I don't know if you want to call it serenity or energy or something that comes over you that you're like, I have to protect the people that I love from this nasty human being. And because you start having that attitude that you have to protect your children, you start to look at the situation a lot differently. You start looking at the narcissist like, you come by my child, you come by me, we're going to have a huge problem. That is the strength that you hear within. And then you get this attitude like, you know what? Why am I wasting so much time and energy on this? Like, I don't even care. I have my own children I have to look after. This person is playing way too many games, and I don't give a damn what they think about me or my kids or what I do in life. And that's how you start living your life. And I know me and my girl Mimi out there, high five Mimi, this is the stage we're in. So even when our husband is guilt tripping us about getting back into contact and things like that, it doesn't bother us. We're like, sorry that you feel that way. Sorry, you're having depression or anxiety over this, but I have to stay my ground and protect our children. I have to protect myself. And you literally look at it like that's his emotional baggage. That's not yours. And that he needs to personally take care of that emotional baggage like you are. Because right now you are in the process of healing. Even when it doesn't feel like you're healing, you are. Every little baby step counts. And after you take all those baby steps and you learn about everything, you're standing your boundaries and your grounds with this person, you can get to where me and Mimi are. And it's funny listening to Mimi last Friday at the group, because literally it was like I was listening to myself. Like, you can know, like me and Mimi were saying, like you literally can't let anything bother you anymore. And it's going to, you're going to mess up on the way, along the way, because I feel like at first when you go no contact, there's a lot of arguing between you and your spouse trying to coerce you back into contact with your in-laws. And if you're willing to die on that hill, you're not going to. And so there's a lot of disruption at first, but then when you stop bickering back with your husband and you just literally just kind of be like, I'm really sorry you feel like that. So you're not saying, your mother did that, your mother did that, you think I'm going to get... No, you don't approach that situation argumentative or negatively with your husband. You just really have to be calm and collected, and you have to say, I'm really sorry, honey, that you're going through so much heartache. I just wish I could fix this for you, but there's nothing I can do. And no matter what he says, you say, I'm really sorry. And you might need to walk away. You might need to find a counselor for your husband. But through all those stages that you were going through to get to the point where I am, where you just really ignore everything, these people are strangers to you. Along the way, believe it or not, You've been healing the whole time. And so that's so very important that you realize that every step of the way has been part of your healing journey. This is the truth. This is how I got here. This is how Mimi got here. I know a few other ladies that have the same attitude. And it doesn't seem like you're healing at first, but the truth is you are. And you got to give it time, and you have to be patient, and you can't rush it. So if you think by forcing your husband to go no contact or griping at him every time, you see him down or out, or he's talking about getting back into contact, if you think attacking him is going to help your situation, it's not. And it's definitely not going to help your relationship, and it's not going to help your marriage. And so you have to approach it very calmly. You have to be your own kind of counselor within your marriage. And you don't ever hear a counselor arguing back and forth with someone. No, they're calm and collected. They have their information, and it's all that they need to know. And so you approach the situation calmly with your husband when he is trying to coerce you back in a relationship with your narcissist. But you personally should not be bringing up the narcissist, any trauma, anything that was said back and forth to your husband. He's going through enough. Show him some empathy, okay? And I get a lot of shit for saying, show your husband some empathy. Regardless what child he is, a golden, forgotten, or a scapegoat, your husband is an abuse victim. Unfortunately, he may not have become a survivor like you, but over time and with patience, he might be. And so the last thing that's going to help your relationship is you going and griping to your husband about every little thing that has occurred. Now, I think it is healthy to talk to your partner about some of the things that have bothered you, but if it starts an argument and your husband is not listening with his whole heart, having an adult conversation, instead gets pissed off very easy over it, leave him alone. Just leave him alone. Stop going to him looking for guidance or counseling or talking or whatever you want to call it. You go in counseling yourself with a professional. You can get a life coach, and you could do your own research and stuff to take care of the anxiety that you have or the most emotional baggage that you have with the narcissist. Your husband needs time to actually see the bigger picture, and you griping his head off is not going to help the situation. Matter of fact, it will push your husband further away, and he is not going to want to open up to you when it's time. Okay, so just give me a minute. So I know personally, when my husband opened up to me, I did the first time when he opened up, I went off on him. Because I'm like, how could you not see this the whole time? Why didn't you protect me? Like, what is going on in your brain? And then he was honest with me and told me he doesn't want to share with me anymore because I was snapping off his head. And that's how I learned a new approach to the situation. And that new approach was listening like a friend. So you're giving friendly advice. You are not going in this demanding things or being accusatory or mean or hurtful or hateful. You're approaching it like a friend, okay? And that right there, when I started approaching my husband like a friend and really listening to him, he started to really open up. And this is why I say, give your husband time and some empathy and sympathy, because the things that they have been keeping inside their chest all this time is going to shock you. I have empathy for my husband. My husband has been abused his whole life. And when he told me some of the very hurtful things that his mother and father put him through, it broke my heart. I didn't even know, after all those 2 decades almost, I didn't even know that his parents put him through that. So just give it time. But what I can say in conclusion is that in your healing journey, if you don't put in the work isn't going to be done. You literally have to work on yourself, work on your marriage, on your relationships surrounding you, work on the relationship you have with your children. Because when you get caught up in this, in some ways, you tend to be selfish. Because you're thinking, look what's happened to me. And the truth of the reality is, it's been happening to everyone in your family. Now, maybe you got hit the hardest, but everyone has experienced with the narcissist some type of abuse. And unfortunately, working through this abuse as a family, you're going to soon see that there was things done to your children that you overlooked to keep the peace in the family, things that happened to your husband or wife that you overlooked to keep peace in the family. So have a huge heart and listen to everyone that wants to open up to you. And the other thing I can say is give it time. I didn't get where I am today overnight. No, this took 3.5 years to be where I am, and I still have the CPTSD, unfortunately. It's not as ramped up like it was at one time, but I still think about my abuse at least once or twice a day, and I catch myself and redirect my thoughts onto something positive, which has helped. That technique has helped me go from very unhealthy, crying in the bathtub, arguing with myself out loud, arguing with myself, especially in the shower or in the car, or any free time I had, trying to justify my no contact, or arguing with myself about why I let that abuse happen, or the things that the narcissist did that I should have spoke up and said something and didn't to keep the peace. I can tell you that the first at least 6 months or more after going no contact, your CPTSD is going to be the worst that you've ever had it, ever. So prepare yourself. Use some of my techniques that I teach you guys in all of my videos. If you have any questions, reach out to Goodintentionslifecoaching@yahoo.com. It is my channel's name at yahoo.com. And I will email you back. If you would like a session with me, I don't have a set price with abuse. You just donate what you can. That's it. Peace, love, and harmony.